Stand up, stand on my left foot, take my right foot out, stay standing up. Sit down, put my foot back in. Every time you unsaddle your horse, you should examine the sweat marks that horse has for that day. If you're like me and not as young as you used to be, a lot of times you get up and different things hurt, and sometimes they kind of hurt and you really don't even realize it. You just keep on going. And you end up with your body compensating a little bit, and it shows in your riding and you don't even realize it. And you take that saddle off the horse and look at the sweat, and you have an uneven sweat pattern. If you have an uneven sweat pattern, it means that you are riding off center. So if I was to put a lot of weight on my left stirrup and ride off center like this, what's going to happen is this side of the saddle is going to pinch and this side is not. You'll end up with a lot of sweat on this side and not on that side if I'm sitting off to the side because of this side pinching. Just as if you had a saddle that didn't fit good. And another thing, a lot of new riders ride off center. I see it all the time in the students that I coach. Everybody is either left leg or right leg dominant, and people kind of tend to hold on with their dominant leg and stand up with the other leg. Put a lot of weight on your non-dominant leg and hold on with your dominant leg. So I see it a lot with my new students that they're riding off center. That's something I have had to work on my whole life. My tendency was to ride off to the left and hold on with my right. We all have situations that we have to work on. We're not all perfect, and we just keep working on them. So what I want to do today is I want to show you the exercises that I use with my students to help them get centered in the saddle. This exercise is very helpful if you show ranch riding or if you show reining. It's going to help you excel in both of those events, not only because of getting centered, but it's going to help your riding seat. So the traditional thing when people are riding off centered is they would have the student take their feet out of the stirrups. And that does help to an extent, but I can still ride off centered with my feet out of the stirrups. So it kind of helps some to a degree, but it doesn't really fix the problem. So what I have started doing with my students, and this transfers into ranch riding and reining, at a walk, we'll start off by standing up. When you stand up, that is going to get your weight on both feet, and then sit back down and stay centered. Most of the time when people sit back down, they sit right back down uneven. It takes a lot of muscle memory to sit back down centered. Stand up, sit down centered. When I'm teaching a lesson, it's really easy to look at this seam in the back of the jeans and line it up with the center of the saddle, or to look at the pockets and see how much pocket I'm seeing off of each side. That's one thing that's really easy to see. If you have somebody video you, you can see that you're off center and you don't even realize it. So I have my students do that standing up and ride and sit back down. You want to make sure you're not pulling on the horse's face when you do that. My little bitty kids, we do a maneuver I call the Titanic, because most of them seen the Titanic. They'll put their reins down and stand up, put their arms out. That puts all your balance in your core and your core body and your legs. Get your heels down and come back down centered. So once you get yourself centered at a walk and you feel pretty centered, another thing that I do is I will have the person shift their weight all to one foot and shift their weight all to the other foot. So we all are used to putting a lot of weight on one foot. When we're sitting off centered, we'd have a lot of weight on this foot, not much on that foot. So to get used to putting weight on the other foot, what we'll do is we'll walk and take one foot out of the stirrup while we're standing. Gets that weight on that foot. Sit back down, walk, take the other foot out of the stirrup while you're standing. that gets your weight over your foot. Another thing that does, when you're advancing further into your extended gaits, when you're showing ranch riding, if you're going to stand up for your gaits, that helps with your balance so you're not pulling yourself forward in the saddle horn. You are allowed to hold the saddle horn in your extended gaits, but if you can just use light contact and stay centered, your horse is going to move a lot better. So if we're walking, stand up, 1 foot out. Sit down, swap stirrups, stand up, 1 foot out. You need a good solid horse with a good fit and saddle to do this, because it is pulling the horse's withers each direction. But the other side of that is, if you're riding your horse unbalanced to begin with, you're putting pressure on those withers all the time. So even though this seems like really hard on the horse to put all the weight on 1 foot, I'm actually helping the horse, because when I do sit back down, I'm getting back centered. So that is going to help your horse because you're getting yourself centered. Now you can take the same exercise up to a trot. Stand up, get centered, sit down. Stand up, get centered, sit down. You can still do the 1 foot thing at a trot, stand up, weight over the right foot, take the left foot out, sit down. That gets you putting your weight on the foot that you're not used to putting weight on. Change directions, stand up, stand on my left foot, take my right foot out, stay standing up, sit down, put my foot back in. Every time I do that, I'm building my core strength, I'm building my leg strength. I see so many people that when they go to stand up in their extended gaits and their ranch riding, it's just they're using their upper body to stand up. If you do that, you're not going to look as good when you do the maneuver. You're not going to score as good because you're not putting your body where it needs to be to help your horse. If you use your core strength to stand up, you're going to score a lot better. You're going to relieve the pressure from your horse, and you're going to sit back down centered. That's going to help you get centered on your horse. It's going to help your horse be more comfortable, and that's going to help your ranch riding and your reining scores get better when you get centered. Put some comments down below. Is getting centered on your horse a problem that you have? Have you noticed that your horse's sweat marks were not even, but you didn't understand why? And if you have realized that you are not riding centered, what have you tried to help? And if you did something that helped, put it in the comments down below. Let's share information so we can all get better. Until next time, thank you for watching.